Today we're going to walk through planting our new citrus tree from the pot from the nursery into its permanent home into a much bigger pot. So we've got an Owari Satsuma, so I'm really excited about this, a really sweet mandarin type fruit. We're going to walk through the process of getting it in the pot. We're going to walk through all the materials that we need and hopefully show you some tips and tricks to make planting your citrus easy and give the tree the best start for its new home. So let's get started. All right, so let's walk through the things that we're going to need for this project. Obviously, you're going to need the tree that you're going to plant. I've got a big pot here. I've got about a 20 to 25 gallon container here that we're going to transplant into, coming from the very small couple of gallon container from the nursery. The tools that we're going to need, I've got a drill with a big bit to drill holes in the pot. I've got some loopers and some scissors so that we can cut the container away from the existing plant. We'll talk a little bit about this. I've got some rocks here that can help with drainage in the bottom of the pot. I've got a garden trowel that we can use to mix up some dirt. I've got a bucket of water so that we can get the dirt, a little bit of moisture into the dirt before we get started. And then obviously we do have some dirt, so whatever you want to use, garden soil, potting soil, whatever you've got laying around. And I've got a little bit of low concentration or low strength fertilizer that I'm going to use just to give the plant a little bit of food, a little bit of fuel to get off to the best start that it can. So here we go. Now before we get started on this project, there's three things that I'm really going to focus on to make sure that I give this tree the best chance as it gets started in this new pot. The first one is around the pot itself and the size of the pot. So I mentioned this was a 20 to 25 gallon. You want to make sure that the pot you get is big enough so that the tree can grow and have plenty of room as it gets bigger and the roots expand over time. Now for me, I think around 20 or 25 gallons is a pretty good size. Honestly, for a permanent home, I think this will work pretty well. You can bump it up to 10 or 15 gallons if you want sort of a transition or a temporary pot, but just know longer term, you're probably going to have to move it up to that 25 gallon type size. The second thing, you want to focus on drainage. You want to make sure that the pot has got good drainage in the bottom in terms of holes. We're going to drill some in the bottom, and then you want to make sure you've got some rocks or other material in the bottom to make sure that those holes don't get clogged. And the third thing that we're going to focus on as we go through this is height. We want to make sure that we have the height of the plant at the right place relative to the pot itself, and then we want to focus on the height of the dirt and make sure that we don't overfill this pot and make sure that we don't suffocate this tree. So let's get started with the drainage. Now I've got my drill bit here. We've got the pot, I've turned it upside down. I'm going to drill 3 holes in the bottom here to make sure that we give plenty of good drainage for this pot so that the water can get out very easily and it doesn't sit in the bottom. So just pick a triangle, 3 spots. It doesn't really matter where you go. Make sure you got a good battery and a big bit, and we're just going to drill out the holes. I did a couple of extra holes in the bottom here. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You just want to make sure you've got plenty so that the water can get out and doesn't sit in the bottom of the pot. Now that we've got our holes drilled in the bottom of the pot, we're going to take our rocks and we're going to layer them on the bottom of the pot to make sure that we've got a nice layer between the bottom of the pot and where the dirt's going to go. Now I'm trying to take my bigger rocks that I have and make sure they're on the bottom. And then the smaller rocks that I have in here, I'm just going to pour on the top, scatter them around, give myself a good base, give it a shake, and we're good to go. So we've got our holes and our rocks, our drainage is in good shape. On to the next step of getting the dirt ready to put in the pot. Now I've taken my pot that I had the rocks in and I've gone ahead and emptied some dirt in here. Now what I like to do, you may notice if you've got some soil that's been sitting around in protected or in a bag, it's very, very dry. So what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of water to this. I want to give a little bit of moisture in the dirt so that when I have it in the bottom of the pot here, it's not completely dry and the soil has a little bit to give to the roots because they're going to be looking for water when they go in the pot. So I'm going to take my bucket, I'm going to add a little bit of water in here, And I'm not looking to completely soak this or flood this. I don't want this dirt to be particularly wet. But I do want it to have a little bit of moisture in here. It's almost like baking. Cooking with dirt. Now our dirt is ready to go in the pot. Just gonna shake this up. Now that we've got the dirt in the pot, I'm just gonna take my spade and my shovel. I'm just gonna spread it around. And at this point, we've got our dirt layer in. Remember I talked at the beginning about height and leveling. We wanna make sure we get the right level of the plant relative to the pot, and then we wanna make sure we have the right level of the dirt. So let's start with the plant itself. You can just take it while it's in its pot. You can put it in here and try to get a decent sense of where you are with the dirt. If I look here, I'm actually pretty close to where I want to be. I might bring a little more of the base layer of dirt in there just to get this plant slightly higher, but this should give you a rough idea of your dirt level. Now that we've got our dirt level where we want it in the pot before we put the plant in there, what I like to do is come in with some low strength fertilizer and just put a little bit in on that base layer to make sure that the plant's got a little bit of fuel, a little bit of food when it first goes in. So I'm not looking for a ton here, and again, this is low strength. You want to be careful with any fertilizer that you put in, but this is natural organic, and I'm just going to put some on the bottom here. This is stuff that's, again, with this strength, you can be pretty heavy-handed with it. So just put some in there. Now this step is probably the most important step of the planting process. We want to be really careful not to pull on this tree and just yank it out of the pot. The biggest mistake that I see people make when they're planting trees or shrubs or citrus trees like this that have a small branch, they'll come in, they'll take the pot, and they'll just yank it out, and they'll put it in their bigger home for the plant. We really want to try to minimize any stress on the plant, try to minimize any pulling that we're doing. So that's why I've got these loopers and I've got these scissors. What I'm going to do is come in with these loopers, and I'm going to come on the side, and I'm just going to start. I'm going to be really careful where I'm cutting and just try to get a nice cut on the pot so that I can come in here. And again, I'm trying to, kind of pull this away. As a matter of fact, with this pot, I can just kind of tear it. You could take scissors if you need to, kind of start to come down the side, however you need to do it. But what we don't want to do, again, is we're trying to avoid yanking this out. So I'm just going to tear this. You might make a bit of a mess. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do it in here so I don't make too big of a mess on the patio. Just tear this away. Now, I'm going to come in on the other side. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. And now I've got a little more room because the plant can move. I'm going to come in, make another cut with my loopers. I'm not sure if you guys can see this on the other side, and we're just going to come in again, and we're going to tear this pot away. And now we're in a position where we can just gently lift this out by the root ball. And we can pull the pot out. Again, you can see the cuts. Again, we avoided pulling on the plant directly. We tried to cut around it. The roots look good. And now we can set this up. And we're ready for our next step. All right, now we've got our tree in the pot. We're ready to continue filling up the dirt until we get to the top. Now, this is where I'm going to check and look roughly where the root line of this tree, the top is kind of roughly lined up with the top of my pot. I'm in pretty good shape here, so I'm where I want to be. So now I'm just going to come in. And I continue taking that dirt. Again, that's got some good moisture in it. And I'm just going to slowly work around the tree. Keep an eye on the root ball, make sure it's level and not tilted one direction. And just keep going. Last important step here as we're getting close to finishing this up. As you're filling dirt, you want to make sure that you don't overdo it. So we want to make sure we get dirt just to the top of the root canopy here, and we cover this. But what we don't want to do is go up the tree at all. We don't want to put too much dirt in here. So as you get towards the top, just go slow, keep going around, and you are good to go. Last thing I like to do, I like to come back again, just with a bit of that fertilizer. I'm just gonna put a little bit on the top, not too much, but just enough to give it a good start. Planting or transplanting a tree, a citrus tree, isn't difficult, but there are a couple steps that you need to focus on to make sure that you give it the best start you can. If you did like this video, please give us a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate the support as we make new content. And as we get into spring and you get back in the garden, really enjoy it, have a great time, and we'll see you next time.